Have you ever been in love so deep you'd climb a mountain just to win someone's attention? Would you fight a dragon for your crush? Number 5, the suffering is sexy rule. Ever wondered why we're drawn to stories of unrequited love? Turns out, medieval folks practically invented the concept. Back in the 12th century, knights and nobles didn't just wake up one day and decide to start writing love poetry. Courtly love emerged as a sophisticated game among the upper classes, and boy, did they have some weird rules. The first and perhaps most bizarre principle was that true love could only exist in a state of yearning and suffering. Picture this: a knight spots a noblewoman across the Great Hall. She's usually married to someone else, often his lord, completely unattainable and perfect in every way. Instead of moving on like a reasonable person, our medieval Romeo would dedicate himself to years, sometimes decades, of devoted service and pining from afar. The 12th century poet Andreas Capellanus literally wrote in his book, The Art of Courtly Love, that love is a certain inborn suffering derived from the sight of and excessive meditation upon the beauty of the opposite sex. Medieval people genuinely believed that the more you suffered for love, the purer and more worthy it became. Emotional pain wasn't just a side effect, it was the whole point. The famous story of Lancelot and Guinevere perfectly captures this vibe. Lancelot spent years performing incredible deeds, fighting monsters, and rescuing damsels, all while hopelessly devoted to Arthur's wife. When he cuts his hand breaking into her chamber, he's so love-obsessed that he doesn't even notice he's bleeding all over her sheets. That's not just romance, that's medieval romance, painful, messy, and slightly unhinged. Musicians called troubadours would travel around singing about these tortured love affairs. They'd perform songs about knights wasting away from lovesickness, unable to eat or sleep because their beloved lady had glanced at them once across a crowded room 3 years ago. And audiences ate it up. The more pathetic and suffering filled the story, the more it was celebrated as the height of romantic sophistication. Number 4, the love is service principle. Would you take on a dangerous quest just because your crush asked you to? In medieval courtly love, that was Tuesday. Unlike modern relationships based on mutual attraction and compatibility, courtly love operated more like a feudal contract. The lover became a servant to their beloved, pledging absolute obedience regardless of how difficult or dangerous the requested tasks might be. When Eleanor of Aquitaine brought these ideas to her courts in the 12th century, she revolutionized how the nobility viewed romance. A powerful and educated woman who married 2 different kings, Louis VII of France and Henry II of England, Eleanor established courts of love where nobles would gather to discuss romantic dilemmas and poetry. These courts treated love as a complex set of rules and obligations that both elevated women and bound men to their service. In the famous story of Sir Gawain, we see this principle taken to extremes. When a noblewoman requests Gawain wear her scarf into battle, even though it might make him look less manly to other knights, he does it without question. A true courtly lover would never refuse his lady's command, no matter how ridiculous or perilous. Marie de France, one of medieval Europe's earliest female authors, wrote lies, short romantic poems filled with knights undertaking impossible quests to prove their devotion. In one tale, a knight transforms into a werewolf every week just to continue secretly serving his beloved. That's commitment. This service wasn't just about doing dangerous deeds, though. It meant complete submission to the beloved's will in all things. A perfect courtly lover would dress as instructed, speak only when permitted, and shape their entire personality to please their lady. Self-improvement wasn't just encouraged, it was mandatory. Knights were expected to become more virtuous, cultured, and skilled purely to be worthy of their beloved's attention. The tales of King Arthur's court show this dynamic repeatedly. Knights regularly ride off on years-long quests because a beautiful woman requested it with a single glance. Oddly enough, this system gave noblewomen significant social power in an otherwise restrictive society. By becoming the object of courtly devotion, a lady could influence the behavior of powerful men while maintaining her reputation. Number 3, the secret love commandment. Have you ever kept a relationship hidden from everyone you know? Medieval lovers turned secret romance into an art form. Privacy wasn't just preferred in courtly love, it was absolutely essential. A true courtly romance had to remain completely secret, known only to the lovers themselves and perhaps one or two trusted confidants. This wasn't just about avoiding gossip, it was a fundamental principle that the quality of love would be destroyed by public knowledge. Why all the secrecy? For starters, these relationships often involved married women. Queen Guinevere wasn't exactly free to date Lancelot publicly while married to King Arthur. But beyond the practical reasons, secrecy was believed to intensify the romantic experience. Medieval people thought that stolen glances across a crowded hall and clandestine meetings in garden alcoves made love more powerful and pure. Crescent de Troyes, who wrote some of the earliest Arthurian romances in the 12th century, frequently portrayed lovers going to extraordinary lengths to keep their affairs hidden. In his story, Clyges, the lovers create a fake tomb so the lady can pretend to be dead while actually living in a secret underground chamber with her beloved. Talk about commitment to privacy. This secrecy created elaborate games of courtship. Lovers developed complex codes and signals to communicate in public without revealing their attachment. A dropped handkerchief, a particular color worn, or a specific phrase in conversation might carry romantic meaning only the intended recipient would understand. The 13th century Romance of the Rose, one of the most popular medieval texts ever written, depicts the lover entering a walled garden and encountering numerous obstacles before reaching his beloved Rose. The entire allegory emphasizes the private, enclosed nature of true love hidden away from public view and protected by barriers. Medieval literature is filled with lovers who meet in secret chambers, exchange letters through trusted servants, and create elaborate ruses to spend time together. The famous tale of Tristan and Isolde shows the lovers constructing intricate alibis and secret signals just to exchange a few private words. When King Mark suspects their affair, they go to absurd lengths maintaining plausible deniability. Interestingly, this emphasis on secrecy created a paradox. While true courtly love was supposed to remain hidden, the greatest medieval love stories became wildly popular public entertainment. Everyone knew about Lancelot and Guinevere's supposedly secret affair because poets couldn't stop writing about it. Number 2, the love makes you perfect theory. Can falling in love actually make you a better person? Medieval nobles were convinced it was the ultimate self-improvement plan. Unlike today's view of love as a partnership between equals, courtly love operated as a kind of moral escalator. The mere act of loving properly was believed to elevate a person to greater virtue and nobility of character. In other words, being in love was supposed to make you not just happier but fundamentally better. This idea appears repeatedly in the works of Dante Alighieri, whose unrequited love for Beatrice in La Vita Nuova transforms him spiritually. Dante only met Beatrice twice in his entire life when they were 9 and 18, yet his love for her supposedly inspired him to become a greater poet and eventually guided him through paradise itself in the Divine Comedy. That's quite an impact from someone he barely knew. For medieval knights, loving a noble lady meant striving to embody all chivalric virtues: courage, honesty, generosity, courtesy, to be worthy of her. A man in courtly love would become more refined in speech, more elegant in manners, more accomplished in skills like music and poetry, and braver in battle. Love wasn't just an emotion, it was a complete character development program. In the story of Lancelot, we see how love transforms him from merely an excellent knight into the greatest knight in the world. His devotion to Guinevere doesn't just make him happy, it makes him better at everything he does. When he fights in tournaments incognito, ladies can recognize him simply by his superior performance. According to the medieval mindset, they know it must be Lancelot because only someone powered by perfect love could fight that well. This improvement wasn't just about combat skills. Courtly love required men to become more emotionally sensitive, more articulate about their feelings, and more appreciative of beauty qualities not typically associated with medieval masculinity. Warriors who might otherwise focus solely on battlefield prowess were encouraged to write poetry, learn music, and develop refined taste in art and literature. The 14th century poet Geoffrey Chaucer frequently showed this transformative power of love in his works. In The Knight's Tale, two imprisoned knights spot the same woman from their cell window and are instantly improved by their love for her, becoming more patient in suffering, more loyal in friendship despite competing for the same woman, and more eloquent in speech. This principle created an unusual social dynamic where highborn women became the arbiters of male virtue. By accepting or rejecting a man's courtly devotion, ladies could influence which qualities were valued in aristocratic society. Men eager to win approval would shape themselves according to feminine ideals of conduct rather than just martial prowess. Number 1. The love versus marriage contradiction. Did you know medieval people thought true love was impossible in marriage? It's perhaps the strangest rule of all. Here's the mind-bending paradox at the heart of courtly love. The best romances couldn't exist between husband and wife. Marriage was for political alliances, property exchanges, and producing heirs, not for passionate love. Real romantic love was thought to thrive only outside marriage bonds. Andreas Capellanus bluntly stated in his 12th century rulebook that marriage is no real excuse for not loving. He wasn't encouraging married people to love each other more deeply. He was saying marriage shouldn't prevent you from participating in courtly love with someone else. In the medieval aristocratic mindset, the duties and familiarity of marriage made it incompatible with the excitement and idealization required for true love. This separation between love and marriage wasn't just theoretical. Eleanor of Aquitaine's court of love reportedly issued formal judgments on romantic disputes, often ruling that a wife's obligations to her husband shouldn't interfere with her participation in courtly romance with another man. These relationships weren't necessarily physically consummated, though they sometimes were, but they were considered emotionally and spiritually superior to marital bonds. Marie de France's Lie Geigmer illustrates this perfectly. The hero falls in love with a married woman whose husband keeps her locked in a tower. Their love is portrayed as pure and noble precisely because it exists outside marriage and must overcome obstacles to exist at all. This strange contradiction reflected the reality of arranged marriages among the nobility. When marriages were political contracts arranged for land and power, romantic fulfillment had to be found elsewhere. The system of courtly love provided an emotional outlet that didn't threaten the social order, as long as everyone followed the rules about secrecy and restraint. Not everyone approved of this separation between love and marriage. Church authorities frequently condemned courtly love literature as promoting adultery and sin. But the aristocracy embraced these ideas enthusiastically, producing endless poems, songs, and stories glorifying extramarital romantic devotion. By the later Middle Ages, some writers began questioning this dichotomy. Christine de Pizan, writing in the early 15th century, argued that true love could and should exist within marriage. Her works pushed back against the idea that wives were merely political assets while true romantic partners had to be found elsewhere. The story of Erec and Eneid, another Arthurian tale, shows a knight who actually marries his beloved, but then must learn to balance marital happiness with knightly duties. It represents a rare medieval attempt to reconcile love and marriage rather than treating them as mutually exclusive. This separation between romantic love and matrimony created ripple effects in Western culture that we still feel today. The idea that passionate romance naturally fades in marriage, that domestic partnership is somehow less exciting than forbidden love, partly stems from these medieval beliefs. Can you imagine telling your spouse they're great for raising children and managing property, but your real emotional fulfillment comes from pining after someone else? Yet for medieval aristocrats, that arrangement made perfect sense. Would you have thrived under these strange rules of courtly love, or would you have been banished from the court for breaking the code?